A life filled with promise. Laci Peterson, the girl next door, she was the embodiment of warmth and kindness, a beacon of light in her community. Her friends and family often described her as someone who could make anyone feel at home with just a smile. Laci Rocha was sunshine personified. Her laughter was infectious, and her presence could brighten even the gloomiest of days. She had a way of making people feel special, always remembering the little details about their lives. Her smile could light up a room. It was a smile that spoke of genuine happiness and a zest for life. Laci had a natural ability to connect with people, making her beloved by everyone who knew her. Growing up in Modesto, California, she was the epitome of a girl next door. Her childhood was filled with love, laughter, and a strong sense of community. She was actively involved in local events and was always ready to lend a helping hand. Kind, compassionate, and always cheerful, Laci possessed an infectiously positive aura. She was the type of person who would go out of her way to make others feel comfortable and valued. Her kindness knew no bounds, and she was always there for her friends and family. She met Scott Peterson at a local coffee shop, and their connection was instant. It was as if they were destined to be together. Their relationship blossomed quickly, and they soon became inseparable, sharing dreams and planning a future together. They built a life together, eventually marrying in 1997. Their wedding was a beautiful celebration of love surrounded by family and friends. It was a day filled with joy, laughter, and the promise of a bright future. Their love story seemed like something out of a fairy tale. They were the perfect couple, deeply in love and committed to building a life together. Their journey was filled with beautiful moments, shared dreams, and unwavering support for each other. Then came the news everyone had been waiting for. Laci was pregnant. The joy was palpable. It was a moment of pure happiness, a new chapter in their lives that they eagerly anticipated. They were over the moon, excited to welcome a new member to their family. They were going to be parents. The anticipation of their baby's arrival brought them even closer as they prepared for this new adventure together. Their home was filled with love, hope, and the promise of a beautiful future. Christmas Eve 2002. A walk that ended in silence. December 24, 2002 began like any other day in the Peterson household. The Christmas tree twinkled, promising warmth and celebration. Laci, 8 months pregnant, was preparing for their son's arrival. Scott, an avid fisherman, mentioned a solo fishing trip to Berkeley Marina. He left that morning, leaving Laci at home. Later that afternoon, a neighbor found Laci's golden retriever, Mackenzie, wandering alone, wearing his leash. Concern turned to alarm when Laci didn't answer phone calls. Where was she? A husband's plea, Scott Peterson and the missing wife. News of Laci's disappearance spread through Modesto like wildfire. Fear and worry gripped the community. Vigils were held, prayers whispered, and hope clung to every passing hour. Scott, visibly distraught, pleaded for his wife's safe return. He recounted their last conversation, his voice cracking with emotion. He spoke of Laci's excitement for their baby, her preparations for Christmas, but as days turned into weeks, a creeping suspicion began to taint the air. Scott's demeanor shifted. Inconsistencies emerged in his timeline. The police, initially sympathetic, started noticing red flags. Whispers and doubts. The investigation takes a turn. The investigation intensified. Volunteers scoured the area, desperate for any sign of Laci. Police divers searched nearby waterways. The media descended upon Modesto, cameras capturing every development, every tear, every flickering hope. But Laci remained missing. As weeks passed, the focus shifted to Scott. His alibi for Christmas Eve crumbled under scrutiny. His behavior, once perceived as grief-stricken, now seemed staged, insincere. Then came the bombshell. Scott had been having an affair. Section 5, Betrayal Unveiled, Amber Frey and the Shadow of an Affair. Amber Frey, a massage therapist, came forward with a chilling revelation. She had been seeing Scott. He had told her he was single, even as Laci carried his child. The news sent shockwaves through the nation. Scott, the grieving husband, was exposed as a liar, a cheat, a betrayer. Public opinion turned against him swiftly and decisively. The man who once evoked sympathy was now a prime suspect in his wife's disappearance. Section 6. A Gruesome Discovery, The Bodies That Shattered a Community. April 2003. The Bay Area held its breath. The unthinkable was confirmed. A decomposed body of a baby washed ashore in Richmond, California, just miles from where Scott claimed to have been fishing on Christmas Eve. The next day, a second body, badly decomposed, was found nearby. DNA testing confirmed the devastating truth. They were Laci and her unborn son, Conner. The news shattered Modesto and reverberated throughout the nation. Grief, anger, and disbelief choked the air. Section 7. Justice for Laci and Conner, the trial and conviction of Scott Peterson. This case gripped the nation, drawing intense media scrutiny and public interest. The tragic story of Laci Peterson, a young pregnant woman who vanished without a trace, and the subsequent discovery of her body, along with that of her unborn son, Conner, shocked and saddened many. The trial of Scott Peterson became a media spectacle. Reporters from across the country descended upon the courthouse, eager to capture every moment of the proceedings. The public was captivated by the unfolding drama, with many tuning in to watch live broadcasts and read daily updates. The prosecution presented a damning case, weaving a narrative of infidelity, deceit, and cold-blooded murder. They meticulously laid out evidence, including Scott's extramarital affair and his suspicious behavior in the days following Laci's disappearance. The prosecution argued that Scott's actions were those of a man who wanted to start a new life, free from the responsibilities of marriage and impending fatherhood. They argued that Scott, desperate to escape the confines of marriage and fatherhood, killed Laci and disposed of her body in the San Francisco Bay. The discovery of Laci and Conner's remains in the bay was a pivotal moment in the trial, reinforcing the prosecution's theory and leaving a lasting impact on the jury. The defense countered, portraying Scott as a flawed husband but not a murderer. They argued that the evidence against him was circumstantial and that there were other possible explanations for Laci's disappearance and death. The defense team worked tirelessly to cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative, suggesting that someone else could have been responsible for the crime. They pointed to circumstantial evidence and suggested alternative theories. The defense highlighted inconsistencies in the prosecution's case and presented their own timeline of events, hoping to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors. They also questioned the reliability of some of the prosecution's key witnesses and evidence, but the jury remained unconvinced. After weeks of emotional testimony and intense legal arguments, the jurors deliberated for several days. The weight of the evidence, combined with the emotional impact of the case, ultimately led them to a unanimous decision. On November 12, 2004, Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder for Laci's death and second-degree murder for Conner's. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and sorrow as the verdict was read. For many, it was a moment of justice for Laci and Conner, though the pain of their loss would never truly fade. He was sentenced to death. The sentence marked the end of a long and grueling legal battle, but it also signaled the beginning of a new chapter in the quest for justice. Scott Peterson's case would continue to be the subject of appeals and public debate, but for now, the verdict stood as a testament to the tireless efforts of those who sought the truth. Section 8. A nation captivated media frenzy and public outrage. The Peterson case became a media frenzy. News channels provided round-the-clock coverage. The public was captivated, horrified, and emotionally invested in the case. Laci, with her girl-next-door charm and expectant motherhood, became a symbol of innocence lost. Scott, with his cold demeanor and web of lies, became the epitome of evil. The case ignited debates about infidelity, betrayal, and the death penalty. It dominated dinner-table conversations and water-cooler talk. It was a story that gripped a nation. Section 9. Lingering Shadows, the Enduring Legacy of a Tragedy. The murder of Laci Peterson remains a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. Laci, a young, vibrant woman, was 8 months pregnant when she disappeared on Christmas Eve in 2002. Her case gripped the nation, not just because of the horrific nature of the crime, but because it shattered the illusion of safety and normalcy in suburban America. The picturesque neighborhood, once filled with laughter and joy, now stands as a silent witness to the unspeakable tragedy that unfolded within its bounds. The case, with its tangled web of deceit, betrayal, and tragedy, continues to fascinate and haunt. The trial was a media sensation, with every detail scrutinized and broadcasted to a captivated audience. Scott Peterson, Laci's husband, was portrayed as the quintessential villain, a man who led a double life filled with lies and infidelity. The courtroom became a theater of emotions, with moments of intense drama and heartbreak. The evidence presented painted a grim picture of premeditated murder, leaving the jury and the public in shock. In 2020, the California Supreme Court overturned Scott Peterson's death sentence due to juror misconduct, but upheld his conviction. This decision reignited public interest and debate, as many questioned the fairness of the trial and the integrity of the judicial process. The legal battles and appeals have kept the case in the public eye, ensuring that the story of Laci and her unborn son Conner remains a poignant topic of discussion. He remains in prison, serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The cold, unyielding walls of the prison serve as a stark contrast to the life of freedom and deceit he once led. For many, his incarceration is a small measure of justice for the lives he destroyed, yet the pain and loss felt by Laci's family and friends can never be fully alleviated. The case's impact extends beyond the courtroom. It has left an indelible mark on society, prompting changes in how we view and address domestic violence and fetal homicide. The public outcry and demand for justice led to significant legislative changes, ensuring that the voices of victims are heard and their rights protected. It sparked changes in legislation, including fetal homicide laws. These laws, often referred to as Laci and Conner's law, recognize the unborn as victims in violent crimes, providing a legal framework to prosecute offenders more effectively. The legacy of this case has thus contributed to a broader understanding and acknowledgement of the rights of the unborn, ensuring that their lives are valued and protected. But most importantly, it serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of domestic violence and the importance of seeking justice for victims. The case has galvanized communities and advocacy groups to work tirelessly towards preventing such tragedies. Awareness campaigns, support groups, and legal reforms have all been part of the ongoing efforts to address and mitigate domestic violence. Laci and Conner's story, though tragically cut short, continues to resonate, reminding us of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Their memory lives on in the hearts of those who knew them and in the collective consciousness of a society that has been forever changed by their story. The enduring legacy of this tragedy is a call to action, urging us to create a world where such horrors are a thing of the past and where every life is valued and protected.